Hey guys, so I put some more data in and I actually found something really interesting. So last time I made a video on here, uh, the only data I had was from, I believe, from here on out, right? Or maybe it was here. And before we get into this, I'm just going to do a quick um, I'm going to do a quick review of the show ruling because I think it's important. But essentially, we're just going to recap real quickly. So, uh, if any participant on the clearing agency, once again, it's clearing agencies responsible for this. It requires any participant, like I said, clearing agency, to take action on all failure to delivers that exist in such securities 10 days after the normal settlement date, i.e., 13 consecutive settlement dates. And then it also says the minimum threshold is 10,000 shares of failed to deliver, or 0.5% of the total shares outstanding, whichever one's larger. And then to get off the list, they need to not exceed this threshold for 5 days straight. Now, like I said, I don't think that's the situation. I don't think they actually close all their failed to delivers, but also the closeout requirement, it says that they have about 2 settlement days after, right? So let's get into what that means a little bit later. But first I want to show you the new data. So this should actually upset a lot of you because when something fails to deliver, a security specifically, I mean, it means that when you pay for a security, the share's not actually hitting the market. Or if I can dumb it down even more, let's say you give your little brother, or your little brother comes to you, his eyes are glistening and he says, hey, I really want to get into the stock market. I'm going to buy 100 shares. Well, normally, if you're a good brother, you would say, oh, okay, you'd take it to the market, you'd buy the shares, right? You use your trading account. But we have market makers that are responsible for this. And they're actually a really bad big brother, right? So instead of them going into their brokerage account and buying you, let's say 10 shares of AMC, they said, you know what, I'm going to keep the money, I'm not going to buy the shares, and I'm actually going to try to drive the price down. So let's say in a couple days, this doesn't always happen with failed to delivers. Initially, usually failed to delivers, it's like, okay, well, I can't deliver it, right? I can't buy the shares yet, or they're not buying the shares yet. But in this particular situation, it seems like they're not buying the shares, and in turn, they're letting the price go down so that, they look back at the little brother and say, well, your position's down 50%, and little brother says, okay, pull my shares out. And instead of actually putting money in the stock market, they benefit by just giving your brother back $50 because he gave you 100. And so the money actually doesn't get lost to the market. The money gets lost to you, the big brother. That's malpractice, and it's also illegal. But it's happening. And we've seen that happen with payment for order flow. But anyways, so this is really going to upset you, right? So it actually initially starts, this new data that I found. So the first failed to deliver date starts on 14th of September. And when does it end? Not going to believe this. But not until the 6th of November. So mid-September, so September, October, and then, the first week of November. So that's almost a month, almost 1.75 months, or pretty much exactly that. And let's see how this affects the price, right? So this is when it actually went on the threshold list, was on the 18th of September. But because it actually doesn't go on the threshold list until that threshold is met for 5 consecutive days, which is approximately 0.5% of the shares outstanding, it actually starts on 14th of September when it hits 332,000 failed delivers. Now, at this time, 332,000, this is not the accurate, this is what I found online, but I'm pretty sure the shares outstanding was actually lower than this, but it slowly increased. So anyways, getting back to it, this isn't entirely encumbersome of failing to delivers impacting the price. So a lot of this is actually, I hate to say it, but because AMC was going through a rough time, the coronavirus hit, organically the share price is going to go down. No one wants to own a movie theater stock during the pandemic. However, I would say that as its price goes down, seems a little bit of an oversell, right? And let's see, so if you go down a little bit, look how many shares they withhold each day. So 1,600,000, that goes up to 2 million, it goes back down to 1,277,000, and then all the way up to 1,700,000, then 3,678,000. 687,000, sorry, my bad. And then 2 million, this is a lot, especially considering that this would be almost 5% of the entire float. Imagine that's like adding 5 million short shares, essentially, because you're not delivering it to the market. So even though it's not negatively impacting the price, it's not positively impacting the price. So instead of being 0.26, right, or 0.5, which is a large portion of the price, they mitigated that inorganically, and that's wrong. Now, it seems like if you look at these charts when these big FTDs happen, it seems like a lot of this is happening when there's a lot of upward pressure, right? So 0.26 on a 2.26 cents off 278, that's very bullish. And people that are short this, they don't want to see that. So I'm assuming that they didn't want to deliver those shares because that would increase the momentum and the positive outlook, right? And as you go down, you start to see more of this. Something that was very interesting. So on November 11th, I think it was, or November 12th, I don't remember. It's actually, there was no data. For some reason, there was no data on the threshold. Yeah, it was October 12th. Let's go down. So, October 12th, there was no data for the thresholds because there should have been a lot, but nothing appeared, right? But it was definitely on the threshold list because you look at the last 4 days, there's no way it wasn't. So I think it's just a data problem on New York Stock Exchange side, unless there's something sketchy going on. But it's definitely not a holiday either. I checked, and also there was price movement on that day, so definitely not a holiday. But anyways, so I thought this was interesting, to say the least, but also some good news for AMC shareholders, in my opinion, and hopefully for me too, because I'm an AMC shareholder. But if you look, right, they get off the list and, kind of neutral, like we were Friday. And this is going into the weekend, right? Well, what happens the Monday after? Holy moly, that's a 50% increase. On 2.49, you get 1.28. That's over a 50% increase in the share price. Holy moly, very positive. So I think it's possible that this happens. Now, I want to show you a second time that this happened, right? So we get off the list on the 2nd of December, right? Which is, I think it is it's the Friday, right? So let's go to my brokerage account. So 2nd of December, right? Yeah, so, oh no, so it's not a Friday. But gets off the list on that day, right? And the next week, it pops up quite a bit, right? From 3.5 to 4, which is once again a huge movement. It's a large percentage. But the reason that I think that it was a little bit less of a huge pop is because if you go back here, they're shorting it again. 4 million FTDs. And if we go to some Ortex data, let's see. So what was this? The 3rd of December. Let's look at that. Sorry. The 3rd of December. So the FTDs on the 3rd to December were only 166,000, right? Then you go to the 7th, it pops up to 4 million. That's very suspicious. I don't know what's going on, but there should be no reason. The volume remains, see, look at this, December 3rd, when we would think the failure to delivers would pop up, right? But no, you have T plus 2 days to deliver, right? So the 3rd of December, right? 60 million volume. Holy moly, the price should be going up because that's more than likely buying. Well, let's go to the 5th of December, T plus 2. Oh, all of a sudden, 4,700,000 shares failed to deliver. Huh. That's interesting, right? I think that's what's happening. This is more than likely either manipulation or they literally can't keep up with the stock. But I don't think that's possible because, given that, what was it, the 3rd of December? Given that is a large portion of the shares outstanding, but still, and once again, you would like to see movement, which we didn't see any on the 3rd of December. In fact, it went down in price. So, yeah, I do think that is attributed to the T plus 2, right? Now, I showed this in my previous videos, but let's go into another one of those delivery days, right? Also, before we go on a little bit, I just wanted to, I had to recap on this thought. So 3rd of December. So why would we have such high volume? I don't know if there's any news, so I'm a little bit biased, but why would we have such high volume? Well, it is my opinion that these failed delivers, it's possibly being delivered on that date. I don't know how they can delay it, but I'm thinking it's these borrowed shares. It's a little bit complicated, but it does say in the show ruling, that you can borrow shares. Essentially, you can borrow shares to, from additional short shares, they're restricted from shorting unless the broker-dealer accounts whose account for the short sale is executed borrowed the security or entered into a bona fide agreement. Now, why wouldn't they want to hold on to those borrowed shares? Well, that's because a huge reason that we have failed to delivers in the marketplace is usually so that large institutions can decrease the cost to borrow, right? You can, you see how their cost to borrow goes down quite a bit, right? But why was it up so high here? Well, that's because their failed to delivers were so high, and their shorting was so high as well. So, I mean, look, it's almost congruent. You see the growth, the cost of borrow goes up, So if you see it go down, it's likely, it's funny because you see it go down quite a bit, but look at all these failed to delivers, right? That's part of the reason. There's a couple of reports. I'll link you one of the reports, but it's one of the reasons that they fail to deliver. Usually it's a sign of naked shorting, and naked shorting, they do that to decrease the cost of borrow. But anyways, so going to December 8th, right? Or December 22nd, sorry, my bad. So we see a slow. It gets off the list on the 29th, right? Well, let's look at the 29th. So, wow, they actually, it actually is just decreasing in price quite a bit. But part of the reason is AMC was talking about going bankrupt. So that's just a natural flow to go down in price when a company's about to go bankrupt. I mean, surely. But then, that's just news orientated. Now we're here. There's no news. It's all been positive news. The shares for dilution, the 25 million or whatever, or 50 million, I don't remember. It's off the table, right? In the next shareholder meeting. Fast and the Furious numbers came out. They're amazing. This weekend, the Black Widow, the news came out. It's amazing. But this price increase does not warrant a delivery of all the shares that they failed to deliver. And in my opinion, it's more than 2.5 million. I would say it's probably around 8 or 9 million. We won't know until failed to delivers get released. But yeah, so it is in my opinion that you should just wait this out a little bit, see what's going on. I think Monday, maybe we'll see some price movement because we've seen it back here, we've seen price movement when they got off the list. And we might see it again. But yeah, and so I just wanted to update you guys. There's also people talking in the comments section that they're borrowing the shares. Yeah, like I said, I think that they are borrowing the shares to pay these, at least, when they borrow shares, it can only be borrowed for so long because it's expensive to borrow, right? If you have 10%, if you're paying 10% on 100 million shares, or let's say you're paying 10% on 10 million shares, right? So 10 million times 10%, right? That's 1 million yearly. Or sorry, you got to do 10 million. That's my bad. That's nothing for them. 10 million times 50 or 46. That's the share price. So you got 460. Wait, let me get the calculator out. I'm gonna fool myself. I think it's around a billion, but 10 million times 46. Okay, yeah, so it is 460 million. 460 million, and then you times that by 0.1, which is 10%. So $46 million a year. It might not seem like, for $1 billion, organization, it might not seem like a lot, but it is a little bit. But this isn't the only stock they're shorting. So, and if it's more than 10 million shares, let's say it's 50 million shares, well then they're really hurting because that would be, $230 million a year. These are institutions, and they, just like a company, they have to bring in profits. Or, as in a company that's public, their investors will go away. But this is, either a hedge fund where the actual, investors that put money into the hedge fund, they will take their money out. Or if it's a market maker, uh, the actual uh, once again the actual investors will take their money out. It's either way, it doesn't look good because you can't be bleeding on top of the share price if they shorted. You can't be bleeding and expect for everyone in the hedge fund that's invested, millionaires or billionaires, to be like, oh, well, I only lost 30% of my wealth. Well, okay, well, that's fine. No, no one's going to do that. Hedge funds were built to beat the market after expenses. And if they can't beat the market, then no one's going to put their money into a hedge fund. In fact, they're going to take it out. So all I'm saying is, I think that, I'm trying to stay positive. We have this. It's a possibility that T+2 settlement date lets them, kind of push it into the future with cloud shares. But we'll see. I hope you guys have a good weekend and, get ready for Monday. In Indonesia, it's actually, it's already Sunday, so it's probably around early in the morning on the East Coast. Anyways, have a good night, guys.